Okay. Councillors, we're back live. Thank you very much. My apology to those that have been trying to watch online through Facebook, etc. We moved into public excluded. The discussion took far longer than I had anticipated. So my apologies to them. We are back live. However, that's what great democracy is about. Rational, polite debate. So I'll move now to, in changing the order, to take the adoption of the annual report. This is item 10.6. At this stage, I welcome Chris Webby. Chris, welcome as auditor to council. You're familiar to us, and would you like us to take us through this? Just before you start, could somebody please move the report be received only? Councillor Rakawa moving, looking for a second to that. Councillor Duncan seconding. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much.
But before Chris, I'll hand over to Chris. Can I just confirm a couple of items about the paper, the council paper?
Certainly.
Thank you very much. So as I emailed out 2 days ago to all councillors, just like to expand on the last sentence in section 2.1 of the council paper, which refers to the disruptions due to COVID for delaying the production of the annual report. As has been advised to previous finance performance committees and risk and assurance committees, and as I emailed out this week, the actual reasons are more than just COVID and include the delays in relation to finalisation of statement of service performance, asset revaluation, staffing constraints, holidays, COVID, and the unexpected need to obtain independent audit review of our compliance with drinking water standards. So I just want to re-emphasise that the matters are greater than just COVID. And also just to remind and point out that recommendation 1 should refer to adoption of the 2021/22 annual report. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chris.
Chris, I understand that by and large you wish to take the report as item as tabled.
Sorry, and if I may as well. Again, as advised to Finance Performance Committee, the draft annual report that was circulated with the agenda it's always been a work in progress up until right now. And if I may just advise on a couple of changes to what you've seen in the agenda as to the current version. There's basically 5 main sections to the annual report. 1 is an introduction, which is basic corporate information. 2 is the statement of service performance, which has got a lot of qualitative measures as non-financial measures. Section 3 is the financial statements. There's 4 key financial statements, which are supported by a range of notes, a large number of notes. Behind them sits the number of graphs that have been finalised this morning, and then there's the audit report. Just to confirm that the changes we're making up since we sent out the draft really impact the supporting notes. The only change to the key financial statements is the addition of an extra 239 grand's worth of grant income. So the key financial statements remain unchanged as to what you've already seen. A number of the notes have been refined, amended and tidied up. So I think it's me done, I think.
Thank you. So, as Dave said, yeah. So usually this time we'll be looking at signing the annual report before Christmas. But as Dave said, there was a lot of things that have caused the delay, the valuations, the water compliance. So all of it just combined. Like if it was just one item, potentially we would have been signing before Christmas. But it was just quite a lot. So it actually combined and. Staffing, I think during the year you've had 4 different accountants as well. So that doesn't help as well. Revaluations. All councils were looking at getting a revaluation. So that meant the valuers, the time as well. So it's kind of just a combination throughout the whole sector at the moment. But we're at the point, to be able to sign, which is great as long as council adopts the annual report today, along with signing a representation letter. So I guess with the audit opinion, if council approves today, I'll be issuing an unmodified audit opinion on the financial statements. but I'll be issuing a modified opinion on the performance information, and that just relates to the complaints measure from the comparative. So last year it was qualified, the complaints were qualified, but this year I'm not qualifying this year's numbers, but since we qualified last year, we have to qualify the comparatives. So when you look at the audit report, you'll just see it's just the comparatives. And also the audit opinion includes an emphasis of matter. All that does is refers the reader to the note disclosure about the 4 public water entities. And that is consistent for every council that has 3 waters. So I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Questions from councillors, please. And for those online, obviously you're absolutely correct. This has been discussed at some length in terms of finance performance, and we understand the qualification as a comparative hangover from the previous one. And I'm on that basis, I'm more than happy for council to sign. Any further questions? Otherwise, I'll move straight into the recommendations associated with us. Right, would somebody like to move recommendations ahead, please? Councillor Wong. Are you moving recommendation 2? Are there any other recommendations you wish to move at the same time as a block?
The whole block.
You're wishing to move the recommendations as a block?
As a block.
You're wishing to second?
Second as a block.
Second as a block. You wish to speak to? Are there any speakers to this? I will speak just very briefly. First of all, thank you, Chris, for the way that you have worked with council. We understand the pressures that you are under. We understand also the pressures that you and our council are under in terms of governments changing positions, as well as COVID and all of those other associated things. We're in, like every council, we're in a difficult space, and where we can work together, we will try and make sure that happens. So thank you for your time, and please pass the thanks on to the staff. Any other speakers? Otherwise, I'll go to the if you wish to have one reply.
Just to echo what you said and before, that we have discussed this previously. So, thank you.
Good move. Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? The motions plural are carried. Thank you very much, Chris. I apologise for keeping you waiting and then having such a short time.
That's all right. That's all right. My pleasure. I'll be back at the audit and risk anyway. Go over the report to council.
Right. We now move back quite a few steps. It feels like now the start of the meeting. So we move back to item number 9, the 8.1. 8.1, this is the Mayor's report. It is a fairly exhaustive report, but there are a couple of things that I would like to say about it, and there are a couple of additions to it. So I'm going to take it as read, and I'll take questions. We have had since the meeting of the bridge at the Ongariri Bridge. I have submitted also to the Severe Weather Recovery Bill, so that Manawatu and Rangitikei submission will be that we are included within that legislation. I'm thanking councillors for their attendance at annual plan meetings. I have cleared today that Zone 3 will actually go ahead in New Plymouth, which I think is 27th, 28th, and with an option for people to zoom in. So 27th, 28th April, there will be a New Plymouth, and the councillors, you're welcome to attend. There are some clashes with a council date as well for us, so we'll have to either reschedule or we put our faith and trust in the Deputy Mayor, which is probably appropriate. So those are the options we might want to look at. Some of the affected mayors from Hawke's Bay have said that they wouldn't attend. Some of them have said they may Zoom, but they're saying, hey, this should happen, and we need to give certainty to New Plymouth. So as chair of that process, I've said we go ahead. And I will make comment, being quite public about Auckland Council leaving LGNZ. I think that is a great pity. Because of the size of their population and the money that they bring in on pro rata population base, that is a significant loss. But even more significant is the loss of our collegial colleagues at the table. I'll leave it there. In noting the bus tragedy, it's been noted in my report that I didn't name the driver. That was purely out of the privacy and not having talked to the family. But I would like to record it as a tragedy for our district, and our heartfelt feelings are with the family concerned. There. Take any questions around my report, Councillor Wong.
About the bus crash, I noted the bravery of the young bus monitor. Was that an 8-year-old bus monitor, or was he a year 8 student?
I'd guessed a little bit about his age. That could stand to be corrected. Do you have an answer?
I believe you're right. 8 years old.
8 years old.
The response he gave when asked what did he do astounded me. As a politician that's been around a while, if I could have given the response that he gave, what he said was, he was asked at a public event, what did he do? And he said, my first reaction was to go and see the driver and ask what to do. And then he just said, I then realised that I was not in the position to be able to give assistance. And this is then what I did. And we had to come up with a plan. I thought, fantastic. Take further questions around any of the reports or appointments. Councillor Duncan next.
Thank you. On page 30 of your report, you have, and it's halfway down, you have listed the councils that were affected. I wondered if you wanted to put the Kaipara council in there as well. Kaipara district.
Yeah. So, first of all, our district was affected as well.
Yes.
And Manawatu was affected. But I have concentrated, as in the report, on the damage that was done. And by the way, when I submitted as part of the submission yesterday, I noted that we had collateral damage and indirect damage to our district.
So subsequent?
Subsequent question.
Actually, another question. I also want to say I've had a lot of feedback around the Mayor's recognition award for Mr. John Beresford Swan Dudding, and it's all been very, very positive. People are really delighted that he was acknowledged for his wonderful work in the district. And one further thing, if I may, I just want to say that I note that you've mentioned Councillor Peter Algetti attendance of the International Directorship course to be held in Queenstown, and although it's on a much smaller scale, I'd also like to thank this council for supporting my attendance of the Kōtahitanga course on the 19th of May, which is also an Institute of Directors course, which will be held in Auckland. It's just one day. So thank you very much for support.
Which you will need as part of standing orders, as part of council process to give a report on at some stage indeed. Thank you. Councillor Hero.
Just two things from your report. Firstly, just a mihi to everybody, the staff, yourself, Andy, for the work that was put on the Rangi TK Community Awards. And the second, the second acknowledgement is to Councillor Brian Carter for his unwavering support in the space of the volunteer fire brigade.
And that is why I decided on this occasion to honour it with a photograph.
Yes, it's a good birthday.
Pretty cool.
Well famous.
But in terms of the volunteer, first of all, I thank all of you as councillors who gave input into that. There's a couple of refinements that I'd like to mention. First of all, where there was a dual award, we were actually giving a second etching, whatever you want to call it, so both members actually receive one. But I would absolutely like to thank my PA, Karen. Putting it together is a big deal. An enormous amount of work go into it. It was a fantastic evening, and you know, she put a great deal of the job incredibly well. Any further questions, Councillor Dalgety?
I'd just like to thank this committee the council for supporting me to go to this training. I look forward to it, and I'm sure we'll be unduly challenged.
That is challenging. Councillor Rakawa.
In terms again of the awards evening, it was wonderful, well attended. Just a thought for next time. I just saw that the kids that gave a tribute or helped to do the kapahaka afterwards could have been given a plate of sandwiches or something, because it was night time and they hadn't, they'd come. I just thought maybe that's another thought for next time, to give them something. It'd be great. Thank you.
And my apology to him. We did provide, of course, a car, but the hospitality should have been extended. So that's one of the catch-ups from that process. Absolutely. Councillor Kalkin.
I note in your report that you've touched on the TV breakfast show, I guess, space that our district was given, and just want to congratulate Katrina on that work, because that was fantastic and very well received.
Yeah, I actually tried to get a photograph into this report as well with Katrina Gray, our staff member. First of all, thank the staff for helping set that up. It was a request to me to appear on Breakfast Show with regard to spatial plan. But first of all, Katrina had put an enormous amount of effort into this. She's more knowledgeable than I am. And it serves, you know, part of her professional development, but part of her recognition of that work, and I thought it was more appropriate. So, yeah. But it's great that our spatial plan is being recognised as something of significance. Take any other questions? No. Well, look, I will move the recommendation that it be received. Looking for a second. Councillor Hilderos seconding. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. Move to item 10, 9.1, Executive's report. Somebody would like to move that it be received. Councillor Duncan, Councillor Dalgety. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Over to you, the Chief Executive Peter.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will take the document as read up until point 6.
So any questions around 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5? Councillor Dalgety.
I've just lost my paper. Peter, just for your information, the Taipi show jumping event was actually cancelled due to the state of the grounds from the previous users. Yeah.
No.
Thank you. Anything further? Otherwise, we'll go straight over the page to 6. This is the external submissions.
Yes, Your Worship. I just wanted to see if there's any questions on that. There's quite a bit of reading there as to the submissions in the attachments, the submissions that have been made.
did we have the addition of the submission that I made yesterday?
Not on, in this document, we're going
We'll
to.
go on to the next one.
The
Mrs Gordon refers to a tight timeframe for submissions. It's what, a day and a half? Becomes ludicrous, doesn't it? But it was important that we submitted because we then become part of our district becomes part of the book.
I'll move to section 7, which is the drainage issues in Koitiata. It's an ongoing assessment and work with Horizons and others. And one of my staff will have a paper for you at next council meeting to outline the options that you may wish to consider. I'll move to point 8, which includes it is just an update regarding the contract council have for the Ratana Communal Board, and that's a process that's similarly taking place. It might not be for council resolution in April, it might be late in that, but the process of external review should be completed by the end of April.
Any questions around that item? No? Pushing on.
There's a request in section 9, Your Worship, from our youth council for councillors and to be members, member representatives to the youth council. And so there's recommendation number 2.
Just a question from me around that item. I'm sure that they welcome all 3, but does that mean that all 3 have a voting right at the same time? Because that would see a domination of the youth council by elected members. Councillor Dalgety.
I thought I was the alternative, but if Jill couldn't go, my understanding of the situation is that you definitely want Mr. Wong. Councillor Wong.
Is he so young?
There's obviously no age restriction.
I think we
I'm
can
happy to
take,
stand down for
take it.
Mr. Wong if that's helpful.
I think we can take it as Councillor Wong seems to be the man of the moment here, and that he has the voting rights, and we use alternate. Other people can attend, but they don't have the voting rights. It's held by Councillor Wong. Councillor Duncan.
It is my understanding from the conversation that's been had that the inclusion of Councillor Wong was not to replace me. I think if there is any doubt, it would be really helpful to go back to the staff involved.
So look, we'll go back.
Yeah, can I just remind councillors that as part of the committee structure, we actually did have Councillor Wong and Councillor Duncan, and we had Councillor Dalgety as an alternate. So when this came through, I thought, well, maybe they did want 3, but if you're happy to remain as the delegate, that would actually be helpful. So we can put that in that resolution.
Well, if it's already been resolved,
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
we can just remove it from the paper.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was an extra person, so that's
If you say it's okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Richard.
That deals with item 9.
Yes, thank you. A request for a fee waiver in section 10. It's 100%, so it must come to you. And if you were not to agree to 100%, they would automatically get, well, I would approve their request for the discounted, which would be $78.17. Recommendation there, recommendation 3, Your Worship.
Somebody want to put a recommendation on the table? This is an event that has happened some time ago. February. Councillor Wilson.
Move 100% in the interest of time, Your Worship.
Moving 100%. Seconded Councillor Rakawa. Is there a contrary view?
Just a clarification, if you give 100% fee waiver, that means, because it was $787, do they pay the $78.70 or nothing?
They're paying nothing. It was 100% free
So
will.
if you agree with this, if this is resolved, they would pay nothing. If you rejected this, and declined, I would be charging them $17.50.
I'll speak against the motion. I just allow the CE to use his discretion, and if they have to pay $78.70, I don't think that's a big ask. Because we're getting a lot of these requests, and I think we got to draw a line in the sand of these remissions in one way or the other, and there's plenty of flexibility to make them a lot more reduced than a full fee on that grounds.
You wish to speak to it?
I just wish to, I agree totally with Councillor Moore 100%.
So that's two speakers against the motion, one speaker for. Councillor Duncan, speaking for or against?
I'm speaking for. This is a local organisation that has is constantly giving their time free to events in Taihape, rocking up and doing the Have a Go with the Boot Throwing Association. And they do travel out of town as well to promote Taihape. They go to Christchurch every year to the show down there, and it's all voluntary. So once again, they've stepped up for this Dewdrop Hope Challenge 2023 to support a charity event. And I think in the circumstances, it would be our way for this council to contribute towards a very noble cause. So
Two speakers for, two speakers against. Any further speakers? Go back to right of reply.
Throw the dice, let it ride, Your Worship.
Those in favour of 100% remission, which was your motion, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, carried. Thank you very much. We'll move on.
That's the end of my report.
I thought there was more. Right. Very happy with that. Moves us to reports for decision 10.1, the adoption of the local governance statement. Somebody move the receipt of the report. Thank you. Councillor Wilson, seconded. Councillor Everard. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Haven't made that mix up before. That's a new one. Would somebody like to move the local government statement be adopted with or without amendments? Councillor Wilson?
Moving without amendments.
Without? Looking for a seconded two. Thank you, Councillor Cowkin. Do you wish to speak to it?
No, Your Worship.
Are there any speakers? Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. 10.2. This is the support request for the Christmas tree by Martin Development Group. Somebody move the report be received. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Thank you, Councillor Lambert, seconding. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. We've just received it. The first one is whether we agree or do not agree on the registration of an electrical connection. Would somebody like to move? Councillor Wilson, what are you moving?
I'd like to move that we agree to electrical connection on the green space.
Have you got a seconder to that? We'll go for Councillor Lambert again. Do you wish to speak to it?
No, I don't.
I'll speak to this. I suspect that having an electrical connection there may well be an asset with regard to other items as well. So if it's being used as a staging area, etc., I think that has merits as well as we need to banish the Christmas Grinch. So I've been in favour of this going ahead. Any other speakers? Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. Recommendation 3. This is that Council will or will not support Martin Developments Group with the sum of noting this is an unbudgeted cost to council. So there was a request for $3,000 plus GST in the paper as a specific sum. Looking for a mover or an alternate motion. Councillor Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Did I get a second for that?
I'll have Councillor Dalgety seconding.
Is it one 3,000?
Will not is my affiliation.
No.
I'm not seconding that.
Sorry, we need to actually get this right. So the motion is that council will not support the funding.
Could we see the sum entered in there at this point in time?
$3,000 plus GST.
Thank you.
So looking for a seconder to the motion that will not.
Yeah, will not.
You like, councillor? You wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I do, Your Worship. I thoroughly respect what the Martin Development Group is trying to do, and I endorse council's support, but not in this format. We have another way of funding this potentially through the community initiatives, which is open at the moment. That community initiatives fund has money available. Through this format, it is simply unbudgeted expense. So I would be welcoming to see and look forward to seeing an application come through a more appropriate channel for council support than sitting here at this council meeting, and that is the only reason why I've suggested that we do not support it in this current format.
Looking for a second, we've got Councillor Moore, do you wish to speak to it?
I'll speak as a seconder, and he couldn't have said it better. I couldn't say it better myself than what Councillor Wilson has just indicated.
Any other speakers?
Yeah,
Councillor
I
Lambert.
thoroughly endorse it too. If there's one thing we're not short of in this region, it's pine trees.
Christmas tree.
We've had 3 speakers in favour. Are there any speakers against? Do you wish to write a reply?
No, Your Worship.
Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Motion is carried that we do not support by that sum money. Are you wishing to move another motion? You suggested inviting them. Is that a motion?
Yes, if we could do that, I'm not sure if that's appropriate at this forum to give feedback that we encourage them to apply to the Community Initiatives Fund.
You could do that. It's not a predetermination as to whether it would be awarded or not.
No, true.
You could invite them. And that could be either verbal thing from anybody back to them, or you could frame it as a motion if you
I
wish.
would wonder if it's simply a recommendation or a request of staff to note might be a better way rather than having it verbal.
Thank you. That would be appropriate. Recommendation 5. That council will or will not support the Christmas tree by paying a maximum of for the preparation of a surface if required to support the container.
Recommendation 4, Your Worship.
I've jumped the gun. The council will or will not waive the annual building consent fee, currently $318 for the erection of the Christmas tree and associated banner. Goes on to say that there may be a blanket one that could cover multiple years. Falcon had a hand up first.
I have a question for staff in this instance. And it was something that came up previously with applications to different schemes. And is that $318 fee waiver able to be applied for through the scheme that we've asked them to go back and invited them to apply through?
Community initiatives.
Could be, yeah. That's an answer to your question. I still want somebody with a motion on the floor. Councillor Hero, and then
I've
I'll.
got a question. My question is, going through all the recommendations, ultimately at the end of it, of those recommendations, if they're saying yes to all of it, we're going to get to a space where actually the council is going to be the owner of it and would be responsible for it. So my question would be, is that correct?
Yes.
So my question would be, is, my question is, had staff or councillors or anybody else that's within the realms of the council ever thought that that might be something that we would do? Do you know what I mean? 'Cause
So it's appropriate, what I'll do is, well, maybe it's appropriate at this stage to give you a little bit of background on this. So the Martin Development Group built effectively, or funded and built, had built through relationship with staff, a playground. And before they started, there was a Norfolk pine tree that had Christmas lights on it each year. And as part of the process, that wasn't possible. So at that stage, there was council said, look, we would like to do something in partnership with the Martin Development Group in the future, and we're working together. So there's been, dating from that time, there's been a series of relationships or correspondence, whichever way you want to put it. So this was their solution to the loss of the Christmas tree, was for them to purchase with non-council funds an 8-metre high Christmas tree with associated lights to be put on the green space in Martin. So what we're dealing with, that was, and they've gone down that path, what we're dealing with is the associated costs, potential costs on council. But according to the council website that was put out, this should be a partnership. Stand corrected on anything, if I got anything wrong.
I think you've not got anything wrong, Your Worship. I would just comment, if I may, that the post that was put up was done prematurely without the approval of this council, and I apologise for that. We are guilty of enthusiasm in this case. I do note that the chair of MDG also said that she was at your awards ceremony, the Mayoral Awards, Community Awards, sorry, that it was going ahead as well. So both of us were premature in the decision. I would add perhaps more on behalf of my staff. I think the word debacle was unfair in that post, but the post has been removed.
Yeah, so that's, I'm just trying to summarise where we've come from and where we've got to, essentially. So they have ordered the Christmas tree. They needed something like 20 plus people to contribute $3,000 plus GST to purchase the tree. Let's go back to the building consent. It's been pointed out by one of the councillors that this could be part and parcel of a suggestion to Community Initiatives Fund, and it either stands or it doesn't succeed on that basis, if that is what happens. But is somebody willing to move one way or the other for $318? Councillor Morse.
I'll move that council will not waive the annual building consent fee.
Okay, we're looking for a seconder to that. Councillor Dalgety seconding, you wish to speak to it?
I think we have been at this space before on other things, and there is community funds that can be applied for to cover these items.
Any other speakers, Councillor Dalgety?
Look, I would just like to particularly congratulate this group on what they're doing, volunteering a lot of time to get pretty outstanding stuff happening in Martin. What they envision is a place of celebration around this tree from November till, I guess, about mid-January. It'll be lit, it will be impressive. They've spoken to more than 5 other councils that have done the same thing, and it's been recognised as a great thing in their areas, and so they've chosen to find a tree and think through a system to make this work. I haven't supported this recommendation because I believe that they can get the money through the alternative means as previously discussed, but I thoroughly support the tree and what their vision is as a cool thing over Christmas.
Thank you. I take your extended comments. So you're speaking for the motion, in effect. Councillor Wilson?
Speaking for the motion for exactly the same reasons as the previous motion, that there are other ways to fund it.
We've had 3 speakers for. Are there any speakers against?
Would write a reply?
Yep. Nobody's speaking against you.
Okay, just will add on that again, as the previous motion, when we communicate to these people, that we suggest that there is other funds that they can apply for, and we encourage them to.
Okay, we can take that as a given through staff, as an action that comes out. Put to the vote, those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? The recommendation 6 is that council will or will not take ownership of the tree. Sorry, 5. I tried to do 5 before, that's right. The council will or not support the Christmas tree project by paying a maximum for the preparation of a surface if required to support the container storing the Christmas tree, noting that this is an unbudgeted cost to council. I'll speak that we do not support, because my understanding is that they have got an alternate arrangement in terms of storage. Seconded.
Seconding Wilson and seconding your understanding of it as well, Your Worship.
I'll move that. Any other speakers to it? Put to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Recommendation 6, that council will or will not take ownership of the tree, and that it will or will not delete rates fund depreciation of the tree. I will move that council will take ownership of the tree and will not put in a depreciation rate. Second. I'll speak to this. The way Martin Development Group has always operated is to build things such as a playground and pass it to the community once it's done. That's their process of operation, and I think it is a good operational matter. Otherwise, it gets very confusing. Any other speakers? Councillor Duncan.
I have a question. I'm wondering if this is going to be our tree and someone else is storing it, is that a good arrangement?
There's effectively an MOU, as I understand it, setting out terms and conditions. Is that correct, Adina?
Yeah.
Do you wish to sort
Yes, if it's okay, Your Worship, I can address that perhaps concern from Councillor Duncan there. So there's a couple of things here that I think some of the councillors aren't aware of the significance of what this little project is, and it does have huge support financially from the community. Whilst we've got plenty of pine trees, we're not talking about a pine tree here exactly, Councillor Lambert. There is an arrangement being put in place. It has come to the board of Martin Rotary. Martin Rotary have undertaken that they will be responsible for the erection of the tree and the pulling down of the tree. A container space has been arranged for the storage of the tree for off-season, and those arrangements are in place presently. So whether or not they give you some assurance of how this is going to, or envisions to play out, there are a number of other groups sitting in the background that are supporting Martin Development with that. There are a large number of businesses already supporting it, and I do believe that largely the application of 20 odd people is largely filled with only 2 or 3 spots left of those that are willing to uptake it and to fund it. And it will be of some significance for the town.
Are you happy for us to put this straight to a vote? Those in favour? Those against? Carried. I'll move another further recommendation, and that is with regard to insurance, which is what they want. So I will move that council look to insure the tree because they have the ownership of it. I will move that, looking for a seconder to that. Councillor Kalkin seconding. This has been the cornerstone discussion with regard to council. Why do they need to have it insured? Because they've said that to the sponsors that it will be insured and that it will have their banner representing their companies and business for the next 10 years or for the life of that tree. I am aware of the staff will say that there is a $250,000 excess on the tree as per the change in insurance policy. So what I'd be looking for is council to work with the insurer or worst case scenario to bear the cost.
Just to add, if there is an insurance that is possible for this tree, then there will be an unbudgeted expense for that as well.
I'm quite happy to have that, noting that this is that's absolutely fair comment. I'm sure that with the scale of our insurance that we could reach a position with the insurers with regard to an excess position, I'm sure. For a community, something like this. Councillor Duncan.
Can I suggest that the wording be slightly different? As in, investigate.
My call, but I'm open to suggestions.
Council investigate insuring the tree.
No, I won't accept that.
So
Because
you're
that's
committing to it, may I speak? Sorry.
correct. I will look to insure. If you investigate, then it may not happen.
Further.
Scenarios, we say we bear the replacement cost instead of insurance. Councillor Duncan.
My concern is that we are committing to insuring a tree without any real knowledge of how much that's going to cost, and it's an unbudgeted expense.
Correct. And if it was proved to be impossible to insure, then we would wear the risk of replacement. Councillor Morris.
I'm going to speak against that because I feel that it was predetermined that we would buy the tree. If people were going out and telling sponsors that that will be insured, if we weren't going to insure it and we didn't take ownership, who was going to pay the insurance? I think at a 250, if we have to 250,000 excess, and I'm guessing the tree's worth 60,000 since you want $23,000 sponsors. We don't even know what the cost of the tree is.
It's about 60,000.
Yeah, 60,000. It'd probably be better to take the risk.
That's the option for council.
I still think it was predetermined when they were selling the sponsorship. Not against the committee, but I think there was a little bit of a process not properly followed as far as council goes.
Other speakers? Councillor Cow.
I'll speak in favour of this, and with a significant amount of experience as an insurance underwriter, I can assure you that insurance companies will look at individual assets outside of your MDBI cover, which is what we have with a $250,000 excess. So there is an opportunity for us to have separate asset insured with a different excess. So while we do have a 250k excess per event, that can be different for a particular asset like this one. So while I appreciate your sentiments that if we were self-insuring, in effect, with a 250k excess, then this would be a very different conversation.
Other speakers? Councillor Wilson.
I'm going to speak against your worship whilst I understand the sentiments of what you're putting forward. I'm much like Councillor Duncan, I'm just not 100% comfortable with the wording around that, because that does indicate that we would do it at an unbudgeted cost to a certain extent, no matter what the cost. And I'm so to the extent that I would like to see it foreshadowed as a motion, which I think would perhaps better clarify the situation.
Foreshadowed motion would be what?
That council investigates the cost of insurance of the Christmas tree and report back.
It's a foreshadowed motion.
We need to know.
Any other speakers? Councillor Duncan, you've already spoken.
I'm sorry, I requested, I had a question,
Yeah.
which you answered, thank you.
Sure. Speaking?
Yes, I would like to speak against it, for the same reasons as my question clarified. I don't feel we can commit to unbudgeted operational costs without knowing the price.
Councillor Hero?
I'd like to second the motion that was foreshadowed motion that was seconded for the council.
Any other speakers? Otherwise I'll use my right of reply. I suspected that investigate would be an option. But what I wanted to absolutely illustrate is that a community in good faith have spent a huge amount of money and action correcting a difficulty that was in partnership with the council. And I know that they have tried to speak to the council around this insurance to investigate options, and they have felt as though those investigations haven't yielded anything. So this, for me, was about intent as much as anything. Will I support the foreshadowed motion if my motion fails? Yes, I will. But I'm not sure that we've handled this as quite as well as we could have. The issue of insurance was made plain and clear to staff that was the issue on multiple occasions, and yet it's not on the recommendations at all. So it's not dealt with. And I think it should have been. And if that's right, a reply, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is lost. Go to the foreshadowed motion. Councillor Wilson, Councillor Hero, that council investigate the cost of insurance for the Christmas tree and report this back to council. You wish to speak to that?
No, Your Worship, I don't. I believe the floor understands the intent of the motion.
Any other speakers, sir? Councillor Hero.
I'm happy with what that is, but I do have a concern when you've just told us that this has already been discussed somewhere, and I have a concern because it's the first time I've heard it. You just said to us that the issue around insurance had already been discussed.
Discussed not with council, with staff. So just clarify that.
Thank you.
Are you happy to put it straight to a vote? Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Move to 10.3, the Project Management Office report. Would somebody like to move that the report be received? Councillor Rukawa moving. Councillor Moore seconding. Those in favour? No. Those against? Carried. You take us, right? Good. Thank you.
So this time the report looks a little bit different, you might see. We already presented it to the Asset and Infrastructure workshop maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. So the way that I intend to present going forward, and I'm happy for your feedback, is that basically the paper part that is the normal report will have just an update on projects when they're in the miscellaneous sort of section, or if there's a recommendation that I want to put forward to you to decide on, or if there's any updates that I want to specifically point out, so that basically all the things jump right at you when they're on these first pages. And then that we still continue going through, obviously, the long list of spreadsheets. So the way that we've sorted it is that there's now a separation sort of by topic, rather than them all being sort of jumping back and forth between different, you know, like keep all the wastewater together, keep all the water together, and community facilities, just to make it a bit easier to stay on one topic when you're going through it. The information is pretty much the same information that you would have seen in the other document. It's obviously a different format, and we are trying to include some sort of difference in having key tasks that could be key tasks for the whole project, so that when we have purchased land, that will stay a key task that we have completed, so that people can see where we have been. And then obviously the next steps are where we're going with this. For health and safety program cost, quality, and the top 5 risks, there's obviously a color indicator. So when it's green, it's no concern. When it's yellow, there is a concern, but not significant. And when it's red, then there's a more significant concern that we might have, that we wanted to put forward to you. If there's a change in colors, it will very likely be accommodated with my commentary around why that has changed. And I wanted to then share with you that there's an increased risk, or there has been an issue with a program delay, or, you know, whatever may have arisen, or a health and safety concern, so that you can trust that we will bring that information to you. I have had quite a lot of thought around how to show trend. Trends are easy to show when you're looking at timelines or at costs, for example. Not so easy when you're looking at sort of general, wanting to give you a general update on where the project is at. And so what I've been trying to do as well is in the front, you can see where the project name is, so that also has a color. And that color is also in the space of a traffic light. So basically when that goes red, then I'm obviously quite concerned, and I definitely will, you know, talk to you about why I'm concerned. But trying to keep that more in a sort of conversational tune, I guess. So yeah, this is the format that I'm quite happy to go through each project, obviously, as usually, and then I have some miscellaneous specifically about the Hunterville Town Hall to discuss. So should we maybe go through project by project to begin with?
The answer is yes. Yeah, so there may be some that we can just skip, but we'll take any questions. So the first one is around
Centralisation, the Martin de Vos wastewater centralisation.
Are there any questions around that? Thank you, Councillor Dalgety.
I'm just interested, you're expecting the draft from Horizons Regional Council, consenting strategy. Have you been able to receive that?
So they are expecting the draft from us, and we have sent to them a draft consenting approach of how we think it should be approached, and that was what they requested from us. So I'm really waiting to hear feedback from that.
And secondary to that, I'm just wondering how you envision creating a resilient pipeline across our bridges in the event of an extreme weather event.
I mean, that is probably, our engineers would have allowed for certain flood levels. So the way that they cross streams and rivers, if they do, I think in this case there's only small streams, they would have allowed for a certain height of flow, and the structure would have to allow for that pressure that pipe would be under.
Thank you.
Anything else? Otherwise, I'll move to the second one, or let Adina move to the second one, 3.2. Any questions around that? This is the Lake Waipu environmental and right and wastewater treatment plant. No. Move to 3.3 Papakai pump station. No. Keep them rolling. 3.4 Martin Water Strategy. Councillor Dalgety.
So also a couple of questions, please. In terms of the water quality, I just feel this item, particularly after our experience on Saturday, everyone was not really interested in what was happening around civic centres. They still wanted the water fixed, and I just think our communication plan needs to reflect that. It's of huge public interest, but I'm interested to know, when do you expect to know whether the aquifer is, the water quality in the aquifer is suitable?
MDC is currently obviously working with a well drillers company to get these results from both the stratas that are being looked at, and they're looking at, probably it will take until sort of early April for them to know for sure what quality is and get it back from the test lab. They are then putting a recommendation forward to us of how we should continue with sort of next steps, and then we can discuss this in the next council meeting as well. And can I just add to it, communication? So we've been talking to our communications team, and what we are going to create is a bit of an infographic, sort of like a one-pager that has a bit of an image of, you know, here's a bore, here's the treatment plant, and here's our water, and how do we get from here to there? And makes it a little bit easier to have these conversation starters, to put that on our website and Facebook, and so that it becomes a little bit easier to understand, because it is a complex, and the same will happen for the centralisation project as well.
Can I just ask supplementary to that? Have we drilled to the bore depths that we targeted? So we're getting those samples and etc.
So both depths have been drilled to. What now has happened is that the first level, the first strata has, you have to expand the bore a little bit to actually do the test that you need to do for flow rates and for quality. So they have done the first one, and that is looking promising. The second one, they were having more promise for, that they thought is actually even better flow rates and quality, and so they're trying to get to that now, to establish that, to be able to do the testing.
Have they got down to that depth of the first bore, and it has to be widened out? Is that where they're at, or are they still trying to get down to that depth?
We have gotten to do both depth, and we have went all the way to the bottom of what we were planning to drill through. But those two that were identified are being looked at.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, do you know when that infographic will be ready? Because I can't help but think that councillors might find that helpful as part of the consultation process when they're meeting the public.
Yeah.
I don't have a date when that will be ready, but I can work with Leah to see when we can most urgently do it.
Councillor Dalgety, Councillor Lambert, Councillor Dalgety.
I'm just interested in looking at the Martin Water Strategy. I believe that this project it said this project must be finished by June 2024, and then I see in here we've got December 24. Is there a reason for that?
I can provide that. When the project was first being discussed, the aim was June 2024. My advice to the PMO was to have that at the end of 2024 and we've adjusted financially, etc. around that. So June is no longer the case, December is.
Thank you. Okay.
Councillor Lambert.
Yeah, just further to Councillor Dalgety, we got a lot of feedback at the Harvest Festival about Martin Water. So I'd just like to reiterate, very heavy on the PR, but even something simple as we're drilling a bore to improve the water service, because everyone I spoke to didn't even know we were doing that. So, you know, you can keep, it's water improvement for dummies, basically, to start the ball rolling. You know, like it doesn't, you know, that's how lack of information a lot of people had. So, yeah.
Right, moving on. Are there any questions around 3.5 through to 3.8? As a little bit of a block. No, move on. Just from me, councillor Wilson has said several times that the Scott's Ferry pump should be on these lists. And I see it's not even in the miscellaneous program for updates. Can we please, until that is closed off, that it can be reported on? Just getting in ahead of you, councillor Wilson, because I knew you were going to, or likely to. All right, take that as an action.
Yep.
Let you move on to the miscellaneous ones.
Yes, so there we have the Hunterville Town Hall. We have obviously received the seismic strengthening report that was done in an accessibility improvement report as well. We have then requested a cost to take this to a next level of design, which has come back to quite a large amount of $45,000. So what we wanted to bring to you is that basically we wanted to give you an update on what the DSA actually means, and there are a few items that were under 20%, but commentary from the structural engineer has confirmed that what you would see is sort of cracking in a major event, cracking but not a full-on failure. So people would be able to get out is what they would expect. So just to understand where the safety level is of this building. And then there's a few options that we wanted to ask you if we can consider either obviously to continue with that design cost, but maybe there's also alternative procurement options like a design and construct contract where you design as you go basically with a renovation work. There can also be the option, of course, to include it in the long-term plan. And then there's also, of course, the opportunity to improve maybe we could investigate some of the improvements that have been requested around accessibility and look into that a little bit more detailed.
Just before I go to councillor Duncan, the chief executive suggested to me some possible alternate and printed them out, but which I've subsequently lost.
No, Your Worship, you're absolutely right. I'm confused. I want to talk to you about Taihape and not Hunterville. Sorry. Yeah, my fault.
That's right. So go to councillor Duncan.
Thank you. Just looking at these numbers, this $45,500 for the preliminary cost for the preliminary design. I'm just interested that locally we've had strengthening done by an independent company, and the initial what is the word, when they looked into the needs of the earthquake strengthening, actually didn't cost anything. So this is anecdotal but reliable information that I've received. It just seems that I just wonder how in the community costs can be seem so low, and yet when it comes to council our contracts, the prices are fairly much up there, and obviously we're operating under restrictions. But I mean, am I is this resonating with anybody?
So to try and explain this, I think you're suggesting or questioning is we have received an unsolicited offer for someone else.
Yes.
Are you asking if this is the same person or?
No, I'm just interested that the unsolicited offers that are coming to council from, on the one hand, seem so much more affordable.
Yeah. Can I have any further explanation around that?
I can do that, and I'd seek guidance with Adina and also Johan as my head of regulatory. I think it's important to remember that under the Building Act, should there be earthquake strengthening conducted over a certain threshold, then you must comply in full to the Building Act. 130,000, Johan, is it?
150. It's just deemed as a major alteration.
So the unsolicited offers, which I think is for your consideration, but later on in the paper, it does not comply with the Building Act. And so that is to earthquake strength in a building on a like-for-like basis. However, the law prevents us from accepting, well, it doesn't prevent us from accepting it, forgive me, but the law says that if you're going to spend more than $150,000, which the quotes for our buildings are, because they are expensive buildings, we need to also look at all other factors. And most importantly within that is fire, egress, etc., prevention, but also accessibility. And so that's why we're not comparing apples with apples in this case.
I think we're confusing two different papers here. I think you're referring more to the situation in Taihape, whereas the item in front of us is accepting a quote for design. That's correct, isn't it?
Correct.
So here, where the staff accept the quote for $45,500 for concept design, it's design, not repair.
Thank you.
And what I think Councillor Duncan is saying is that there is another company that was prepared to give at their cost an estimate to do the same work. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I understood. I may be wrong.
So that's what I want clarification around this. Councillor Wilson, do you have?
No, I'd like to move a recommendation with this and perhaps revert us back to the order paper and the recommendations that are in front of us, Your Worship, if I could. With that, I'd like to move the recommendation that staff include the work for strength and improve accessibility to the Hunneville Town Hall project for consideration the 24th to 34 long-term plan, and I would like to speak to that for the reasons behind that recommendation and moving it.
Looking for a seconder to that. Oh, that was typed up quickly. We must have had it sitting waiting for you.
There was a second.
Yeah, it was a recommendation. Councillor Rakawa, you're seconding that. You wish to speak to it?
Yeah, I do. And also, just to perhaps I may speak to what Councillor Duncan was just saying. In the absence of any firm information as to what that may have been, then I'm sorry, but I don't see the relevance to the order paper that's in front of us at this point in time. The thing being is that we're about to embark on a number of fairly significant projects. Financially, I don't think it is prudent for us to be spending $45,000 as an unbudgeted expense at this time, given where we're at with our current constraints around operational expenses. So that's the first thing. What I do feel is that as we go further along, and there is another item in this order paper, I do believe that we may find significant other ways of doing things better. So I'd like to just pull back from this and making a discussion or making a decision, a financial decision, which will impact us quite heavily with regards to potentially our rating decision. And I'd just like to pull back for this and allow us a little bit of time to breathe on this, hence why I was suggesting that it should be a decision for the 24 to 34 long-term plan, where we may have a much, much better understanding and a far greater understanding of the options available for us as a council on this particular matter.
Take speakers to the motion. Councillor Moore.
Yeah, I'll speak to the motion, just taking into consideration that the assessment is that it's not a public risk at this stage. People can get out if there's going to be an earthquake, and that'll probably only crack. So, yeah, I think.
Speaking in support of the motion, Councillor Kalkin, Councillor Jack-Eddie, Councillor Kalkin.
Also speaking in support of the motion for the reasons already explained by Councillor Wilson and the priority that has been placed currently on other projects for us that I don't feel is right to bring another one in at this point.
Councillor Jack-Eddie. Speaking for or against?
I'm speaking for the motion.
We've had 3 speakers for. I think we're all speaking in a similar solitude here, so is there any speaker against? Do you wish to write a reply?
No, Your Worship.
I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Sorry, standing orders. there's no point in continuing if everybody's thinking in the same vein. It's that simple. So that deals effectively with 10.3.
Is that recommendation 3, Your Worship?
It would drop out because there's further work to be done.
That's
The way that
to,
I could see that, right?
that's to improve the accessibility.
Okay.
I'll move recommendation 3.
We've moved recommendation 3. Looking for a seconder to that. Councillor Lambert seconding. Do you wish to speak to it?
Oh, just that there's the work that we're looking for, in the future, could take a while, and just to improve look at investigating the accessibility to the lower floor of the Hunterville School, Hunterville Town Hall.
And you're quite correct. The Chief Executive and staff and councillors, to second. Any other speakers? I'll let you speak now.
The main thing, in my view, for the town is that we can use our hall. It was the only hall left in the township. There are other issues. We've got it's only heated by a fire. So there are other things in that list on top of accessibility that we need to consider. And obviously the fire situation, or the mezzanine floor. So.
Thank you. You specifically mentioned heating. Do you want that noted? Or,
Yes, I would like it noted, please.
Councillor Moore and Councillor Lambert, would you be happy if the heating was included in there, or do you want to do it separately?
No, I'm happy to have it included. It's an investigation.
Thank you. Any speakers against this? Right, put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. I'm just warning Councillor Wilson that you'll be taking over the chair in about 10 minutes time at a suitable time in the agenda. Councillor.
Further to that, I will also be an apology at that same time. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm wary about a mass exodus of all councillors to attend Taihape. Perhaps you may need to think about that, councillors, in terms of either that or Councillor Wilson might want to refer some items.
Sorry, Your Worship, there is confusion amongst staff for the last recommendation. We haven't captured where Councillor Maughan wishes for the motion to represent heating. If that was indeed what we were hearing and what was voted on. If it's okay if Councillor Maughan can provide that, and we could. Sorry, it wasn't captured at the time.
Yes, to improve. They probably need
Heating.
Can I? Same thing, to investigate costings for wheelchair access.
Accessibility. Did the original request include heating at all? No. Then you can't do it.
You can note it on the actions.
But we could note it as an action for council to look at. That would be the way we could deal with it. All right, I think we're there.
Yeah, I'd leave it as original and then a note to staff, action to staff that they investigate heating as well.
10.4, moving to that, this is the proposed Hunterville subdivision connection to Council's reticulated wastewater network. Somebody move receipt of the report. Councillor Hiroa, Councillor Rakawa, seconding. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? I have spent a little bit of time on a possible recommendation in terms of with the Chief Executive. And this is, so I will move that Council, having given due cognizance to the risk and mitigation measures being implemented by staff on the Hunterville wastewater treatment plant, agree in principle for the lots proposed for subdivision consent application to connect to the council's articulated wastewater network. I will move, looking for a second to do that. Councillor Lambert, quite appropriate, you second, thank you very much. I'll speak to it. So we had a report that came to council that essentially said the Hunterville wastewater treatment plant is non-compliant, and if you add to it, you increase that non-compliance. Therefore, the recommendations you don't do this. And that is an absolutely correct position for staff to put in front of council, in my view. However, all around the country, first of all, this is a routine position where, for instance, Palmerston North is non-compliant, maybe non-compliant in terms of wastewater plant going to a river, or all sorts of other plants that are struggling to deal with development. So it's a common issue. But we have had a number of discussions with Horizons around the path for compliance, and their view seems to be, look, we understand where you're heading, we're not likely to take you to court with regard to this. So they seemed, and I asked for the Chief Executive's opinion in a second, to make sure that I'm getting this as correct in terms of the advice we've given. They cannot categorically come out and say, we're not going to fine you. But the indication was that we're prepared to work with you rather than take an enforced statutory role. We need to grow Hunterville. This is the one chance we have. You walk away from this, you probably won't get the opportunity. So I think it is incredibly important that we look to facilitate this where we can. Also, this doesn't mean that they will be granted a consent. All it's saying is that with regard to this area, we're prepared to accept that risk. And it is a risk. But they still have to comply with everything else to the satisfaction of staff. And before I go to Councillor Duncan, have I fairly illustrated the discussions that have been had? Councillor Duncan.
Just for meaning, Worship, sorry, the wording is not quite right. It says that council have given due cognizance. It should be that council, having given, so it should be having rather than have.
We have given.
We have given? Having given? We have given.
Having given is fine. Sorry, whichever.
Given.
Having given would probably be correct. I'm quite happy to change it.
Grammatically true.
Questions? We can do questions really well.
Probably to you, Anna, I guess, but I'm just interested, when you are investigating stormwater into our wastewater pipes, can you just take me through how they do that and what happens, please?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, that's a really good question. It's an interesting thing. There's two things we're looking for really. It's water that gets into the network from illegal connections, so things that shouldn't be connected to the wastewater. Sometimes there's a stormwater downpipe connected to that, or a road sump or something connected to the wastewater system. And the other way is there's a cracked pipe and the groundwater seeps in. So what we do is we use smoke under a little bit of pressure that will find those holes, and you can see it come out of the ground, or you can see it come out of pipes, or out of manholes, or sumps where it shouldn't be. And that's the main way that we detect that there's a problem, and then we'll put a camera in and see if we can find it.
Thank you. Interesting.
So there is an understanding here that we need to go back to Hunterville and start looking at enforcement around stormwater infusion into our networks. Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, and speaking for the recommendation that you have it there, and I actually would just like to thank the Chief Executive and the regulatory team for bringing this item to us so that we can assess the risks associated with it as we desire to grow Hunterville, as you've mentioned, I think it was appropriate that it came to us to be aware of the risks that it may pose.
Other speakers to the for or against the motion? We've had two in favour.
I'll be speaking in favour of the motion as previously described.
Any speakers against the motion? I think I've covered it. I don't think I need a further right or reply. I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you, councillors. I do need to be there. And I'll leave it with Councillor Wilson and individual councillors to make their call as to when and if they attend.
Yeah, raw.
What's that? Matter raw. So I'm heading.
It's an hour away.
What's that?
It's less than an hour away.
2 hours to keep
Just I need to be there just a few minutes ahead to welcome people. So
Just a question, what if we do, what's a quorum of a council meeting?
half of the quorum is always half of the membership needs to be here for the meeting to continue.
We're heaps Greek, don't we?
One thing that Councillor Wilson may wish to talk to the staff is if it looks as though the meeting could run very late, as to whether there are any things that absolutely have to be dealt with in terms of council requirements. Thank you very much. I'm sorry that I'm here for the end of the process.
Julie, it's meant to be up in 5 p.m.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, councillors. Very mindful of time and very aware. I'm also mindful that we did just skip over one item, which was the valuations of properties, I believe, has been skipped over. If we could just circulate ourselves back to that. I don't believe that item was ticked off. It was only an information only item. Am I correct in saying that?
What page number, please?
82.
Page 82. I believe that item was skipped over with regards to property valuations. It was a request. I'm happy just to say that it was an information only and that as circulated and as rest, but I was just hoping to see if that could be taken care of and tidied up.
Page 95 for you, Greg.
Councillor,
That was part of the PMO report.
was that in the PMO
Yes,
report,
yes.
not a separate report?
No.
My apologies.
Yeah, they're just attachments that show what those valuations are as part of the PMO report.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So where does that leave us
So
right
if
now?
we can go to item 10.5.
10.5, Parks Upgrade Partnership Application, Hunterville Community Assets Trust. I believe you were declaring a conflict of interest in this one, councillor. Okay, once again, councillor Duncan, we would welcome you to stay at the table to answer questions, but suggest that you may excuse yourself from a vote. Ms Prince, you'll take us through this.
Happy to take the report
Thank
as
you.
read. Thank you. Page number, please.
Okay, it's quite a detailed report, and I think everyone's aware of the Hunterville Community Assets Trust and their involvement in the pool. So we'll start. But I'll move from the chair that the report be received. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Carter. Okay, moving straight on. Are there any questions of the report at this stage, or could we request a recommendation? Being no questions of the report, there is a recommendation that council approval does not approve funds of from the Parks and Upgrade Partnership for the Hunterville to fund the Hunterville Community Assets Trust for solar panels for the school. Is anybody willing to make a recommendation on that? If not, I'm happy to. Move from the chair for the applied amount of 20,000? $20,000. Happy to move. Seconder from councillor Lambert. Thank you, councillor Lambert. I'm happy to speak to this item. Again, it's a very, very well used complex up there. It is very well supported by the community, and it is significantly funded by this trust. And it is an investment in not only what is ultimately a council-owned asset, but I believe it is an investment in the community of Hunterville. And I think it is worthy and meets the criteria on the Parks Upgrade Fund on all fronts and all councils. So I have no issue in making this recommendation. So we do have a seconder. There's speakers 2 and 4 apart from that. Is anybody wishing to speak against?
I'll speak for it.
Speaking for?
And totally just support that it ticks all the boxes, and I'm very happy to see this go forward.
Further speakers to the motion as it stands? Being none, I don't believe I need a right or reply. All those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion's carried. Thank you. 11.1, Taipi Town Centre, Civic Centre Memorial Park Grandstand. The issue here is a report for information we've received for Office for Earthquake Strengthening being received. I note that they are unsolicited offers. This is an item that I am sure all councillors would have looked through in some detail and studied quite carefully. So we will certainly take it as being well read, and I welcome our Senior Project Manager, Adina, to the table to take us through this or to add further insight to the decisions that are in front of us. Adina.
Yes, so we have obviously received 2 offers, one for Taiape Town Hall and one for the Memorial Park Grandstand. We wanted to point out in this report basically the risks that are associated with these offers, just to make really clear that you understand what these offers include and what especially they exclude. So at the moment, the way that they have been structured, both of them are strengthening to a level of 70% of the National Building Standard. Both of them have strong exclusions of reaching building code compliance in accessibility and fire. So both offers rely on a council decision through regulatory that it has been assessed that this is not required as part of the option that you can waive fire and accessibility in other parts of the building to be upgraded to the current standards. So the options that have been put forward to you obviously is around accepting or rejecting the offer. What I would like to point out that even if it would be accepted, it still will go through a process of putting this through a building consent process, and the likelihood of that being a favourable accepting to waive fire and accessibility is in these 2 cases quite small given the size of these buildings and the amount of work that is required to them. And there's obviously a factor around when we waive this for our buildings, this could set a bit of an example for other buildings. So we just wanted to make sure that it's really clear. There's, I think, a way in the code that council can decide to waive certain parts to the code at the end of the process, but it's not the recommendation that staff, including regulatory and us, would put forward. So I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has any further questions to this report.
I had one question for Johan. The question of this $150,000 as before we sort of get into a stage where we have to enact all these other regulatory, is that a council decision or is that a national decision via MBIE, or is that our own council has put that precedent in place or that level?
Through the chair, it's in legislation.
It's a national legislation.
It's in the Building Act.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
But it's not to say that you still don't have to take it into consideration. It's just when it's under that threshold, that you should really look at the objective is to strengthen the building rather than worry about all the other clauses. So you'll still look at it when you're processing it. If there's something that needs to be updated, then you may still make a decision to request that is addressed.
Councillor Moore.
Just a question. Can this work, if we're looking at the Taiapi Town Hall rebuild or renovation or whatever, can this work be added in or worked in with conjunction with that project? So you are doing all the accessibility, the fire stuff, the doing up, making the town hall, the civic centre back to it's what it's intended for. Can all this work be included in that? Because we've got to do earthquake strengthening with that anyway. So if we had a joint project going with the strengthening and the refurbishment or rebuild of the civic centre.
So I had a conversation with Arthur on this same topic, and he is not interested in having a combined project because he's aware of obviously the complexity of having to comply with the code, especially accessibility and fire from such a historic building. So there's a lot that needs to be updated, and what you would have to do is see both obviously in conjunction, because if you strengthen some part of the building and then you go in a bit later and do accessibility and other things, you might reverse either or, these things can impact each other, especially when there's like stairways that need to be widened to be code compliant.
No, I'm talking about a joint, doing it all at the same time as a co-joined.
That's not his offer.
Project.
That's not the offer that we have received.
First of all, just in the interest of moving this item along and hopefully getting to a position where we can speak to a recommendation, I'll move from the chair that the report be received. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Dalgety. There is a recommendation 2 here that's in front of us, and in the openness of transparency, I have been having a conversation, or I have had a conversation with this Chief Executive and the Mayor around this this matter. And I'm going to suggest that we add to recommendation 2 the words "at this time." And I would like to just say that the council agree to reject the unsolicited offer to earthquake strengthen the Taihape Town Hall, Town Centre, Taihape Memorial Park at this time. And I have a 3rd recommendation to add to that. So I'm happy to go to the 3rd recommendation so that councillors have a greater understanding of where the thinking could be to enable us to have greater conversations. So if councillors will indulge me on that, their 3rd recommendation would be that council requests the Chief Executive to enter into direct negotiations with Mr. Mortensen and other providers to assess earthquake strengthening solutions that improve compliance against the building code.
Sorry, what was the last sentence?
That council requests the Chief Executive to enter into direct negotiations with Mr. Mortensen and other providers to assess earthquake strengthening solutions that improve compliance against the building code. And I'm happy to speak to that. If we could get the first recommendation moved. At this time, I have moved that recommendation 2, so before we go further, do we have a seconder for recommendation 2 as it is written at this time? Councillor Kelkin is seconding that. So with that recommendation, speakers to that, I've indicated where I stand with it. Anybody else wishing to speak to that recommendation? Councillor Dalgety.
I just would like to make a comment really. I went to the council's workshop to the public around with Mr. Morganson, however you say it. And he explained it, this is my understanding of how he works. So he has, his team are professional building strengtheners, but he doesn't believe he has the expertise to, within his team, my understanding of what he was putting to us, to do this other work. But he inferred at that workshop that he would work with other contractors to get that work done, and that was what I came away with. So that there would need to be a joint contractor type scenario. Yeah, I believe, to make this work.
Okay, further speakers to that? I don't know if that was speaking to or for the recommendation, councillor, to be honest with you, before we
Well,
get into that.
I'm keen for us to work with Mr. Morganson, just on the grounds of his quite.
Yeah, if we can just stick to the recommendation as it's stated, we're speaking to for the recommendation before we can get that to a situation where it may be moved or carried. Recommendation 2.
Just a comment, I think the process has been a bit wrong here. You've preempted recommendation 2 by recommending recommendation 3, where it probably could have been rather than a recommendation, a notice of whatever. A notice of motion or something like that, just process. But I'll speak for recommendation 2 without the bias of recommendation 3.
Thank you. I'm just looking to get recommendation to a point where we can speak to it.
Yeah, okay.
Councillor.
I'd like to speak in favour of recommendation 2. And I think we've got to remember that the time of year we're in right now is we are currently consulting on an annual plan with a key choice, which involves the Taihape Civic Centre. So for us to make any decision other than the one that's up there right now would actually be wrong. We've got a key choice that we've gone to the community and consulted on. So let's see what the community comes back with before making any further decision.
Is there any further speakers to this before I exercise my right of reply? Being none, the reason for recommendation 2 at this stage is exactly what Councillor Kaufmann has said. There is more information to be had with regards to this, and I do not believe that the original recommendation up there, if we hadn't put at this time, it basically kicked this matter to touch. And I do not believe that we've investigated and spent enough time looking into this matter as the potential options that might be able to work for us as a council. And that's why I put that at this stage. So I now put that recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Recommendation 2 is carried. We may better do that. Recommendation 1 has been received, but I don't see that has been listed as carried. Just, all right, thank you. It is now. Now. So moving on to recommendation 3, as it is worded, I have moved. Do we have a seconder?
I'm not seconding, I just wonder about the wording.
Okay.
Improve compliance. I mean, you can improve compliance all you like, but we need to be compliant.
Perhaps we will take a comment from Chief Executive with regards to this matter.
So this recommendation was in conjunction with the slight alteration that Councillor Wilson put into the last recommendation. And I had to kind of cook it both ways just in case you wanted to accept the first one. Recommendation 2. If I was to write the paper now knowing you'd made recommendation 2 I would not have recommended number 3 to you. In my discussion with His Worship expressed concern that had recommendation 2 gone in its original state, it effectively cancelled any kind of engagement we had with Mr. Mortenstein. And he wanted perhaps a kind of how can we might wish to continue. with Mr Morgenstern. I'm not allowed to give anything other than advice, but I believe you have discussed that in recommendation 2 with Councillor Culkin.
So further to that, Chair, could I just suggest that the wording, strengthening solutions that allow us to meet compliance within the building code?
Yeah, at this stage, we would need to get a seconder to this motion that's here before we could change it, would we not?
Yeah, it hasn't been seconded.
So therefore, the motion would lapse unless we get a seconder.
I'm happy to second.
We've got a seconder. Okay, thank you, Councillor Lambert. Now, if we could come back to that, so we've now got a recommendation on the table, which we would now like to discuss. So the wording on the recommendation, what would you like to put in place, Councillor?
Well, I don't see the point in having improved compliance unless we're able to meet compliance.
Okay, so you'd like the word improved removed and the word meet put in
Solutions
place?
that meet compliance within the building code.
In compliance against the building code. Okay, as the mover of that, I'm happy with that wording. As the seconder, would you be happy with that, Councillor Lambert? Happy with that. Now we will take discussions to the motion. Councillor Moore.
I'm going to speak against the motion. Because of the discussion we had in recommendation 2 about that we've gone out with our annual plan, we're talking about the grandstand and the civic centre. Assuming that these all go through, we will be meeting all the building compliance that happens with those projects. I think this is just pretty much underlying what will happen if these projects go ahead. So I think the recommendation or the motion is not required because the building codes will be met, hopefully, with with the projects that are anticipated, whether it's option 1 or 2.
Further speakers, Councillor Calvin.
I'd also like to speak against it, mainly for the reason that it expressly asks the chief executive in this moment, as a result of this motion, to go and start negotiations directly with this particular contractor and others, yet we still do not know what the outcome is going to be from the consultation that we've currently got out there with the community. And until we have gone through that submission process, we should not be foreshadowing any kind of work that may or may not be required. So at this point, I feel like we should be waiting until that process is done. Otherwise, we actually are taking away from that process, in my opinion.
Just my thoughts on that though, with the consultation document that has gone out, all the options that require earthquake strengthening. So earthquake strengthening is going to be required, and we won't be doing any earthquake strengthening until well after the consultation document has come back. So I'm not quite sure that that would negate the consultation document that's gone out, but I hear what you're saying.
Was that your right of reply?
Possibly, we'll take that as a right of reply. Fair call. Okay, Councillor, have you spoken to this motion?
You've got a few tricks, haven't you?
Yeah.
Just ask a question and then you...
I would like to support the motion because I really like to see this council being proactive and going ahead with as much as they can before the actual actual decisions, which will not be affected by this, are made by the community. And it does say, and other providers, and I think this is an excellent opportunity to get as much information as possible to this council for the future.
Is there any other speakers to this? Okay.
Can I ask a question? No.
I will take it that I've had my right of reply. Thank you for pulling me up on that, Councillor Gelcom. But before we put this to vote, I would like to just check with the Chief Executive. Do you see any risks here in us, in this recommendation as it sits? Is there anything that makes you uncomfortable with us and now having listened to some of the concerns around the table?
The answer is yes. I am uncomfortable. as I said, had I would not have suggested this recommendation to council had I known what the answer to recommendation 2 was. And my discomfort sits around council's procurement policy, that this recommendation asked me to directly negotiate. I believe this could be on the table in the future, but there will be other things that I would need to enact in order to get this moving forward.
Right.
There are other things I'd say that are perhaps inappropriate for me as part of a governance.
Very good. I think that's said enough for that. Councillor Wong.
Could I suggest perhaps rather than rewording it, direct negotiations to consider negotiations?
I'm going to let the motion stand as it is. Thank you. And having heard from the Chief Executive, I'm now going to put it to the floor for a vote to see where councillors feel they sit on it. So, as the motion sits, all those in favour, please raise your hand. Those against? Motion is lost. Anybody wishing to record one way or the other on that one? Okay, thank you. We'll leave that as a lost motion at that stage. Moving on to item 12.1, is it? We have following minutes be received. Risk and Assurance, Taiawe Community Board, Turukina Community Committee, Huntable Community Committee, Radnor Community Board, Finance and Performance, Erewhon Rural Water, Falls Community Committee, and Youth Council. Could I have somebody move those as a block? Thank you, Councillor Carter. Seconded from Councillor Maughan.
Just Mr. Chair, the wrong date for their risk and assurance. It should have been.
Okay, has that been amended?
2022.
Sorry, 152. Oh.
22, thank you. Okay, now you have all been in receipt of these minutes and they have been circulated to you. Certainly is bringing that to us attention. Thank you very much, Councillor Duncan. Thank you for your attendance. These have all been well circulated. Are there any particular pages with regards to these minutes that anybody wishes to reference? And if so, please tell us what page and what committee.
Did you want to amend that date before it's voted on?
Oh, sorry, it's been amended. It's been done. 16th of November 22. Okay, we have a mover and we have a seconder. There are no matters arising. Take it, all those in favour? Aye. Aye. Against? That motion is carried. Now, we are required to go back into public excluded again. Apologies to those that are online. There is one matter outstanding that was not addressed earlier this morning. We will be moving into public excluded. I will move from the chair that we move into public excluded for the reasons as stated in the order paper. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Carter, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That motion is carried. Thank you.